Welcome to the Featured Anime Podcast. I'm your host, Jack.
And I'm the laser gun toting Rick.
And today we are talking about Paranoia Agent because we are both extraordinarily paranoid people. Because that's how we are.
I am now. After that, dear Lord.
Before that, we actually talked a little bit about the director. And we also talked about how we both have seen The Room and delved in on a little gem that we feel like people should actually watch, and what I feel people should actually watch. And if you want to catch a part of that wider conversation, check out the Patreon only feed, patreon.com/featured anime podcast. $1 a month will get you all that bonus content. And on to the meat and potatoes, sir. Today we're talking about Paranoia Agent, and it came out in 2004. It ran from February 2004 all the way through May 2004. It's 13 episodes long. Producers for it are WOWOW, Asmik, Ace, to name a couple. Studio for it is Madhouse. Its source is it's an original, and the genres are avant-garde, drama, mystery, supernatural, suspense, psychological, police, horror, sci-fi.
How many more tags can you throw in there? They covered a lot of bases.
I'll end with this. I'll end with that. This week's was certainly interesting, and I don't remember watching it actually really until I got to the very end where I went, yes, I have seen this. I have seen it. And like we had talked about beforehand, I had told you who the director was. It's Satoshi Kon. And for anyone else who recognizes that name, they'll recognize it from such great cult classics like Perfect Blue and Paprika, because he wrote and directed both of those as well.
And those are not in any way, shape, or form damaging to one's soul.
No, not at all. Actually, they're wholesome. They nourish you greatly. That's the lie. I'm sticking to it.
I'm like, I really wish you had a better sarcastic voice, because just listening with my eyes closed, listening to you, I'm like, oh, he's being honest and genuine. Anything but. You're saying, dear Lord.
Yeah, this definitely is a very interesting show, to say the least. It definitely takes you on a lot of twists and turns, and it actually does make you kind of second guess yourself at a couple different spots too.
A couple?
Yes.
A
couple. Just a couple. I'm going to be honest. I thought it was a really well written, well directed anime.
I'll be honest too. You're right. In order to have this level of chaos is a good way to put it. You need to start with almost ultimate order. You have to have the entire story laid out, even possibly in my head, starting at the end, working your way forward. Because just everything that happens, it's beyond what I was expecting.
Oh, yeah. And this is a show where you can't just come in halfway through it. You can't just cherry pick episodes. You have to watch it beginning to end to really understand it and get the full effect of it. And
it's one of the rare ones. I agree with you 100%. It's one of the rare ones that, chronologically speaking, episode 1 to episode 2 is okay. Episode 1 to episode 3, you're completely lost.
Yeah.
But episode 2 to episode 3 makes sense.
Yes.
And I really like the fact it didn't have any filler type. It might have had one filler type episode, but even still, it was doing exactly what you needed it to. Yeah. And that quote unquote filler episode was highly relevant 2 episodes later.
Yes.
So if you just skipped it, like they circle back a lot and make previous references, and you don't know who's crazy because it could be you.
Well, it's not that you feel like you're crazy. You're just on this journey and you're trying to figure everything out. And it starts off pretty solid. So you have Sagi, who's basically under a lot of pressure to try and come up with this new cult phenomena, like she did before for Moromi, which is this like cute little plush dog type thing. And she's under an excruciating amount of pressure because the bosses are coming to her. Hey, we need you to kick out a new top level great cult phenomena. And then she gets attacked.
By what?
Well, that's the thing, right? It's by someone on gold skates with a bent gold bat that just came out of nowhere and attacked her from behind. But a few episodes later, you're told, well, no, like she actually wasn't attacked by anyone, and all these other people actually aren't attacked. They're attacked by this, by one of these copycats who are going around, who ironically also fit the bill and look perfectly.
You mean the Holy Warrior?
Yes, the Holy Warrior. So here's the interesting thing, right? Here's the interesting thing. And I'm glad that they touched on this and really gave the light and reasoning behind the little slugger or shonen bat, his methods of attack or who he chose to attack. It's for people that were in extreme distress, who were severely depressed, angry, sad, or backed into a corner. And that's when he would actually show up. And that's when he would actually attack. And I'm glad that they clarified it. I'm glad that they didn't leave you wondering, well, why are they only attacking certain people? It's something that they really delve into and explain and show. He is attacking people who are backed into a corner that feel like they have nowhere else to go, have no recourse at all. And that's when he appears. But he appears to give you what you're ultimately wanting while you're backed into that corner.
Yes, I was going to touch on that if you didn't. Everyone he hit, everyone, this little slugger, as he was deemed, everyone he just brained felt better. And not by a little bit, like they were psychologically cured of their illness, their
well, it's not that
deficiency.
They were cured of their illness or anything like that. So take for example, I want to say, God, what's her name? The daughter of that police officer, that scummy dirtbag pedo officer, Masami Hirakawa. Okay, so that's the officer. His daughter is Taiko.
Before you continue, I got a question that I'm hoping you can answer.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
When he was doing that B&E, that break and entering,
yeah,
did he molest that little girl?
I would say no.
But he did do that creepy call me daddy.
Yes. And it's because he had a thing for his daughter and he was peeping in on his daughter, which is why she ran away, which is 100% understandable. Why she didn't go to the police or anything like that is beyond me. Because
her dad works there.
Well, it doesn't matter. I mean, like, if you're a pedo, you're a pedo.
True. But, I mean, if you think about it, are you going to go...
Yes, 100%.
Report the location that assaulted you?
Yes, 100%. Why? Because he's not going to be the location that I'm going to.
Oh, you go to a different city. This happened. Gotcha.
No, so the thing is you're not going to a different city. He's stationed at a specific little precinct, little police office.
Okay, so like an outpost?
Yeah, and that's where he's stationed. And they have stations or outposts like that all over the place in Japan, where it's not like they have giant police stations everywhere all the time. They have outposts everywhere to help it.
Oh, yeah?
So
I guess I'm not familiar.
So that's why I was like, yes, go to the police. And you even see her father, Masami, at one of these police station outposts for it.
See, I thought that was like where he worked rather than like, I sure phrase. I thought that was like a patrolling station rather than his main office.
Well, that's where he's usually stationed, is he's at that patrolling office. I don't know the details if they're always at that same spot, but typically from my understanding is that they are. And if anyone who is very familiar with how police polling stations and everything like that in Japan really work, please reach out to us. Let us know. Love to learn more about it. Featured anime podcast at gmail.com. Join us on Discord or on Twitter at those anime guys for us. And we'll happy to receive your feedback on that. But to my understanding, that's how it works. So that's why. And what's interesting is, and I did do some research and learning on the laws, or at least how they do interrogations in Japan, and how when they had caught the little slugger, the impersonator, as you find out a little bit like a couple episodes later, how he was in there and they were pressuring him into answering the questions and trying to get him to basically confess to everything. They will actually do that there. In Japan, you have the right to remain silent, and how it is out here, at least in the US, is if you want to remain silent, they'll just leave you in the cell. They won't talk to you or anything like that. And you have a right to an attorney, and the attorney has to be present for the questioning. Well, you have a right to an attorney, but the attorney is not allowed to be in there while you're being interrogated. And while you're being interrogated, if you don't want to answer, that's fine. They'll still bludgeon you with questions and try and get you to answer them anyways. Completely different law system out there, at least in that regard. So I like that they really focused on that a little bit and touched on that here too. They highlighted how they really focus on the law system there a little bit in terms of interrogation tactics and techniques.
Well, what I saw there made me think that it was, I would say, a lot more honor-based. You know what I mean? Like, well, here,
they do that, but also at the same time, they push you. Even if you didn't do it, they want you to fess up saying you did it to close, so they can get that case closed, to my understanding, from what I've heard and been told.
I mean, if you're looking at the macro of open versus closed cases, that makes sense. Get it done as fast as possible. You don't want that ratio to be too far off. But I was going to say quality over quantity, but in reality, the faster you get these done, the sooner you can do the next one that'll eventually help someone major.
Back to what I was saying, though. For example, brought him up, and the reason why I brought him and his daughter up is because she wanted his house, his new house, to be destroyed. And she wanted to forget everything having to do with him. She forgot everything having to do with him, and his house was destroyed. She didn't wish to die. She did not want to be killed. She didn't want to die. And so she was granted that.
She was just stuck in a corner.
Yeah.
She was just stuck in a corner.
She wanted to forget him and everything having to do with him. And she wanted his house to be gone. And that's exactly what she got. And so I would say for Shonen Bat, when he was at the Makoto, who was the imposter, he was backed into a corner. And I have a feeling that while he was backed into a corner, he was saying to himself, I want to die. I don't want to be here. This is a problem. And that's why he was killed.
That's deep. That's real deep. I was not expecting that at all, actually.
You get the resolution that you want when you're backed into the corner and you're asking for that type of resolution. I wish, and fill in the blank.
Damn, that's deep. A lot of these movies, especially with this director, have multiple meanings you can walk away with. Multiple reasons and ideologies you can walk away with, which is one of the reasons why I like him.
Yeah.
And here I felt like, at least in a little bit of a sense, you're looking at the 7 deadly sins: envy, pride, jealousy, sloth,
lust,
things like that. Lust. Yeah, that was a big one. And so I was watching this on the train with my headphones in, just, la-ti-da-ti-da, and I've never seen this before.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how timing usually is just the worst?
Yeah.
Just flat out, no matter where you're at. You could be at home listening to or watching an anime, and it just sounds like, an adult anime.
Yeah, some cultured shows.
Yes, some shows of high class culture. Well, in this episode, or in this show, you get to see a fully nude image twice, I think. maybe 3 times. Guess what time the conductor shows up? Meanwhile, I got headphones in and I'm not hearing him. And it flashes on the thing. And I look up and I see him with this just look. I'm not going to say disgust, but just like, what are you doing? You're in public. Do I need you to get off the train? And I'm like, it's not what it looks like.
I promise. It was
Yeah,
the one naked, one-eyed, one-armed man.
Exactly. And then he goes, ticket. I'm like, I got it right here. It's on my phone. He goes, ticket. I was like, all right, I can't watch this anymore.
Right.
And then I was like, I wonder if I should like go up behind him and just play it loudly. So he'll be like, what are you watching? And I can show him it's not what he thinks it is.
I don't know. Maybe.
No. One of the coolest things about this show one of the coolest things I found about this whole thing is it's focused around mass delusion. And in the filler episode that we saw, it's not really a filler, but I digress. In the filler episode we saw, they're saying a whole bunch of different rumors about this slugger and what happened and who he was, what he looked like, how big he was. And by the end of the episode, this thing's gigantic with like bat-like fangs and beady eyes that look like a goat and just super fast and all that stuff. And every time someone goes in and alters the public perception of what Little Slugger looks like, the assailant changes too. The features change, become more well-renowned and well-known.
Yeah. And one of the things that I like is they don't let you, or they don't make you think that all the way through. They don't let you think, oh, well, he's a real person all the way through. They about like 4 or 5 episodes into it, they pretty much nip at that. Hey, this is not a normal person. This is not a real person, especially with Little Slugger vanishing through the wall after he kills Makoto.
Yeah. And not just that. At that point in time, Makoto was the holy warrior. Well, guess who picked up the mantle? And I was like, why? Why? You're crazy. You're legitimately crazy. To the deputy or the partner of the cop.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're assuming the delusion. You are becoming one with the delusion. And the deputy or the officer is like, you're enjoying this a little bit too much. And in my head, I'm like, where are they running to and from physically to make everyone so like out of breath? Yeah.
Couldn't tell you, but you know what I will say? They weren't running anywhere because they were still inside that office the whole time.
Exactly. So why was he out of breath? Does he even envision himself to be out of shape?
Yes. Yes, he does.
By that logic, I could run for maybe an hour in my head and basically die of like asthma or something like that. And it would take forever. Well, meanwhile, in reality, I'm like, boom, done. I just did 452,000 laps in my head with no asthma, that kind of thing.
The other thing that's really interesting about this show is on the variety of different subjects or mentalities that they touch on. So take Harumi, for example, who has split personality. Her split personality is a lady of the night. She is an escort, a call girl.
Several.
And when she switches back to her other personality, she is a standard tutor, class tutor, subject tutor to help out students get better grades in school and excel academically and, just normal life. The other thing that they also touch on is suicide too. Big time.
It's one of the major reasons people die in this show. And it's for lack of a better term, self-inflicted. Because the very first one you find out was a self-inflicted head wound. The second time, self-inflicted. But again, if you'll notice, the only time that Little Slugger isn't effective in helping people feel better is when it wasn't Little Slugger and it was a legitimate attack.
Yes, but there were only two. And we're only assuming that, you know, it was just a head wound for the other ones. Now, who's to say that it wasn't something else?
Who's to say that is exactly what you think?
Who's to say? Now, okay. So here's where it gets weird for me. The delusion becomes reality to where it actively destroys objects and people and everything like that. It moves from just people to being able to interact wildly with the world around it.
Are you talking like at the end when everything's destroyed, or are we talking like making dolls move around?
No, what I'm saying is, like, if you noticed at the beginning, never touched anyone, didn't have interaction, didn't move anything for anyone, but as it progressed, it actually started affecting real world as it progressed. So objects started getting destroyed.
See, I always assumed that, you know how a mother can lift a car to save a baby?
Mm-hmm.
I always assumed that was what was happening.
He was lifting a car to save a baby?
Now I lost. What I was trying to say was, you know how mothers get a boost of adrenaline to lift a vehicle, right?
Right. Okay.
So what I'm saying is, in their delusion, they suffer, for lack of a better term, a boost of adrenaline that gives them superhuman strength to destroy their surroundings, to crash, to do stuff like that.
But
you know?
everyone else was seeing him, and not necessarily because they were going along with the charade, but because he was actual physical manifestation that became more and more realistic.
Well, it gets become to a certain extent. To a certain point, he becomes hyper realistic. Not with the animation style, but he matches the animation style, so you can't differentiate between crazy and real. And then once it hits that point, it slowly digresses back to stick figures. Yeah, the cop at the not the very end, but the cop at the second to third last episode, his whole ideology was a stick figure town.
No, it wasn't a stick figure town. It was his own personal safe space. It's not that Little Slugger had anything to do with it. It was his own manifestation of the world he wanted. And that's why Little Slugger couldn't get to them there, because of that. It was his own personal manifestation of it. So it wasn't just a matter of Little Slugger coming to existence from other people's perspectives. The detective literally, Ikari, he literally created a whole manifestation, a realistic world around what he wanted.
You know what that sounds like? Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, but they weren't asleep. They were awake for this, so.
No, I know, but like, unless you know about it, you're safe. The second you learn about it and you get a little bit stressed out, you got to start fearing for your life. And then I feel like they would always go for lesser minds, if you will, because at not the very end, but the officer's wife has a nice long conversation with Little Slugger.
Well, it's not that they were going after weaker minds. It's she chose to not be backed into a corner anymore. And she even calls this out. She even says, "You have no power here, and here's why you don't have any power here." Despite the fact that he was thrashing around, destroying the room, wanting her to finally give in to saying, "You know what? I can't handle it anymore. Just kill me and be done with it." She was like, "No, I'm not going to give in. I'm going to stand firm. I'm going to stand strong," and just constantly basically scolded him. And that's why he didn't kill her. He swung. He wanted to attack her, but because she didn't want to give in to the emotions and feelings that he wanted to be able to do that, he didn't have the power to be able to directly harm her in that way. He was able to scratch her because of a momentary weakness, but she immediately erased that, and that's why he wasn't able to do anything beyond that.
Now, do you think that this mass delusion could have been taken care of, for lack of a better word? Do you think there could have been some form of safety measure?
You mean aside from what they already did and could have found out right away and solved the whole issues and problems right from the very beginning? Yes, I do.
At least we're on the same page with that.
I'm just saying that it's a good movie. It's a good series. It's
Who's
solid.
delusional now?
But I mean, it's not perfect by any stretch of the word.
No, but it's thought provoking.
It is.
I watched it regular, and I watched it at 2 times the speed, and I found it much more pleasurable at 2 times the speed because I felt like every episode talking just drug out forever.
It has, but it's also meant to build the suspense, and that's why.
See, my issue with the show is that it's too suspenseful, and then it gives you that roller coaster drop, and then it's another. Like each episode has 2 main peaks.
Yeah,
and it becomes a little repetitious.
True, but I feel like that's what Satoshi Kon was going for, because that's how he's been, at least in the movies. It has those peaks in there to keep you on that roller coaster. The only difference is that this was a series that went over several episodes versus one single sitting.
True.
So I feel like it did it justice. It did what it was supposed to do. It gave you those peaks. It kept you suspenseful. It definitely made you engaged. However, I feel like because of how it was, it's better suited to be a movie than it is an actual series.
That makes sense. And how did you, in your opinion, if in just strictly your opinion, how did you figure the dog played into it as far as that black sludge is concerned?
You're talking about Moromi?
Yes.
The little pink dog?
Correct, yes.
Well, I figured it had something to do with it when it started talking in episode 2.
Well, actually, you just answered the next thing I was going to ask you. Do you remember if it was before or after the incident, quote unquote, with a little slugger that Moromi started talking?
It was after, which is why I said, she was backed into a corner and she was stressed out trying to find the solution for it. And when she was trying to find a solution, or when she was backed into a corner, that's when little slugger appeared before her. And after that, when she was finally home, not necessarily in the hospital, but when she was in home, that's when Moromi, the little pink dog, started to talk to her. It was like episode 2.
Well, what's really kind of awesome for me with this whole thing is if you pay attention, it's very similar in my experience to The Sixth Sense, where if you backtrack and you watch it all over again, super obvious.
Yeah.
They don't hide anything.
No, they don't.
In fact, they hide it in plain sight, which is kind of genius, because you're like, is this a diversion? And then the story goes one way and you're like, oh crap, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. It's a really, again, it's a good series. It's a good solid series, and it's a great story. And I do like that it plays on that a little bit too. So, but with all that said, I think this is a great spot for us to come up with a rating, sir. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate it?
I would probably rate this. I would rate this a solid 8. A solid 8, because it does everything it needs to. It is, I'm not going to say worrisome, because the psychological portion of it didn't keep you in suspense. So it didn't give you heart palpitations and whatnot. But it made me think a lot more than normal.
Okay.
It made me want to follow the stages that the officer was too. And when I did watch it back at 2x speed. Excuse me. When I watched it again at 2x speed, everything was crystal clear, and Little Slugger, in my opinion, moved much more fluidly at 2x the speed. Because like when he's talking to the lady, he's making swings. At regular time, the swings are really slow. They don't look that damaging. But at 2x, the swings look purposeful. The swings look like they should be there. And it gives you a lot more respect for the woman who looks like she looks sick. She looks sick and like she gave up. The officer's wife. So solid 8. I definitely want other people to watch it. I do kind of wish that they took out the nudity, but not in a tasteless way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I feel like it was in there and not in there just to be in there. It was in there kind of in a way that had purpose, I want to say.
Okay.
Like it helped kind of tie in the story. I get what you're saying. Like you could kind of cut it out at the same time, but I do feel that it is something that can ultimately be left in or taken out. I don't feel one way or the other about it. Now, for me, I think I'm gonna give it a 7. I'm giving it a 7.
I figured you'd like it more than I did.
I thought it was good. Ending kind of lost me.
The ending was freaky. The ending made no sense.
That's why I'm giving it a 7. It was fine all the way up until it like started losing me around there. And it's not that it's not that it was bad. It's not that the ending made no sense. It evolved from here's a suspense, a serial killer type situation to grow. And now you have this big old thing and it's causing mass destruction and everything like that. It just like it grew exponentially at that point. And the delusions were starting to become for other people were starting to become reality. And that's where it kind of just lost me. It was like, well, that's kind of pointless for me.
All I can say to that is it's the power of Barney, the imagination island. If you just imagine it enough, it's going to be real.
Okay. All right. I'll buy that. Well, next week is your choice. And if you were a part of the patrons and you were hanging out for that pre-content episode, you would have heard what the choices are already. But for everyone else, how about you tell us what we're watching?
It's going to be a surprise. All right, I'll see you later. No, it's going to be Hellsing, but not Hellsing Ultimate. It's going to be Hellsing, the one that was made or released in 2001.
All right. I've seen Hellsing. I've seen Hellsing Ultimate. I've seen them both. They're both really great. They're both good. They're both solid in my personal opinion. So I am looking forward to it. And if you feel like we missed something, didn't do it enough justice, did it too much justice, or anything else, reach out to us, featuredanimepodcast@gmail.com, at those anime guys on Twitter, Featured Anime Podcast on Facebook. Hang out with us in Discord. Talk to us in there. Message us there. A link for that's going to be in the show notes for you. If you want to buy yourself some swanky merch, shop.featuredanimepodcast.com. Or if you want to support us and help us grow even more, patreon.com/featured anime podcast. And until next time, I'm Jack.
And I'm going to leave you with just a little fun fact that's disturbing. 2001 was 20 years ago now. And with that, I'll leave you with that. I'm Rick. We'll see you next time.